Okay.
We'll just talk, you know. I mean,
Okay.
keep it pretty casual. If there's anything I ask you
Widen out.
that you're like, what do you mean by that? Or rephrase it, or let me start over. Any of
I
that
want to do a clap.
is totally possible.
Okay.
And I'll just ask you both, you know, if we hear a big brake noise or a train starts to go by, let's just stop and we'll just wait for it to, like, the noise to settle down and we'll pick it back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We eventually put an edited but longer form version of this up on our YouTube channel, so if
Okay.
people want to watch what we call like the whole interview, something like that.
Right.
If, you know, if we're not able to hear each other,
Okay.
or you know, if you want to restart on a question, nobody will ever see that.
Okay. All right.
No worries.
All right. Very good. Very good.
And the first part's very easy. We're good to go, right?
There-
Yep.
There's more than one part?
The first question, I should say. There's only one part.
Okay.
The first question is the
Okay.
easiest because we just have you say and spell your name, so
Okay.
we make sure everybody at the station gets it right and pronounces it right.
Okay.
You can go ahead and do that.
Okay. My first name is Deirdre, D as in David, E-I-R-D-R-E. Last name Jones, J-O-N-E-S.
All right. And your title.
I am the Chief of Police / Director of Security for GCRTA Police Department.
Awesome. Well, we'll get started then.
Okay.
Chief
Okay.
Jones, thank you so much for having us out here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is so cool to see sort of behind the scenes here at Rail HQ.
It is. It's amazing. It actually kind of blew my mind when I first got here too. So
And that wasn't too long ago, right? You're pretty new at this job.
I am in my third week as Chief of Police with RTA.
How's it going?
It's a lot to learn, but I'm very excited about it. I was telling some of my colleagues as a child, I grew up in Cleveland, and we used to ride the buses and the trains, and I had no idea what went into making RTA work. So
It is really fascinating to learn more about it. How did this opportunity come about for you?
well, I actually saw a post on one of the professional websites, and because I was looking for a challenge, you know, I have 33 years of law enforcement experience with Cleveland PD, I decided to go ahead and apply and had a few interviews with the CEO, India Birdsong, and COO, Dr. Kaver. And I got a second call and a third call, and it kind of snowballed from there.
Great. Should we pause? How does it sound when that goes by?
Okay.
Okay, good. Obviously, they liked you and things worked out,
Yeah.
and here you are, you know, which is awesome. What do you think, and I know you're fairly new to it, and as you said, there's a lot to learn, but what do you think will be sort of the challenge or the newness? What's different between what you were doing with CPD and what you'll be doing here at CPD?
Well, what I found here, while I enjoy my time at CPD, this is a lot different, even though it's a smaller department. RTA Police goes everywhere. RTA Police goes everywhere that RTA goes. So it's not just one municipality, which is what I'm familiar with. RTA and the police department go to Parma, they go to Lakewood, they go all the way out to Solon. So anywhere that RTA goes is where our police officers will go.
As transit police officers, do you find that you're fighting a different sort of crime, a lot of it?
You know, it's a little bit different. We have some calls for homeless people that are, you know, either in the trains or on the stations, on the buses. We've also experienced quite a few, from what I've seen so far, quite a few cases where someone may have overdosed on the train. So, and our officers are trained to handle those things, so they do a great job when that comes up.
Yeah, we can see those would be sort of the daily challenges. While you were at CPD over your 3 decades, you have worked a lot of various positions.
I have.
Tell me, can you walk me through your road a little bit? We start back at the beginning. What attracted you to law enforcement in general?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. When I was a kid, my mother and I used to watch all the cop shows. We watched, and I know I'm about to date myself, but we watched Hawaii Five-0, we watched The Untouchables, the FBI in color. And at that point I said, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. I want to be a police officer. And so I had to narrow it down. There was one other passion that I had. It was either law enforcement or become a roller derby skater. And the roller derby skater thing didn't pan out, so law enforcement it was.
That's fascinating. And you grew up here in Cleveland.
Born and raised in Cleveland, yes. We grew up right around the Kinsman area, which is, so I was on the 14 all the time with my mom and my sister. And, you know, we moved in different areas, but we always stayed in Cleveland. So I rode a lot of different buses and trains.
There's been a lot said, you know, particularly with CPD, but about the relationship between police and the community here in Cleveland. How do you see that?
Well, you know, the Cleveland Division of Police had a community engagement unit where they dedicated several officers to that unit. Our department is kind of small, so we don't have what you would call a dedicated community engagement unit. However, each officer is a community engagement officer, and we are tasked with developing and maintaining relationships with the community so that they feel safe and secure whenever they ride RTA. And that's the same thing with our operators as well. So we maintain those positive relationships, we continue to maintain them, and the goal is to just keep that going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. This year, not just this year, I guess, in 2021, but in 2020 as well, we've just seen sort of society have a lot of conversations around the need for police and community to have those conversations, to open the dialogue.
Agreed.
How do you think that can be better done here?
You know, I think that one of the things that we have to do is get out of our police cars. I've been saying this for years, even when I was with Cleveland Police. Officers have to do more than, you know, go to work, get in a police car, drive around, respond to radio assignments, get back in the police cars, go to the station and go home. Even just having a cup of coffee and engaging somebody in conversation while you're waiting for that cup of coffee, or buying somebody a cup of coffee. Sometimes it's just a simple hello that makes a difference in a person's day, and it makes them have a different perspective on police officers. So I encourage every police officer to get out and engage people in just basic conversation. It's something that I do, it's something that I thrive on. That's one of the things that I love about policing, is the opportunity to get out and engage people. So.
And obviously with the RTA, you're facing community all the time. You're here to serve people, to get them where they need to go in Cleveland. And feeling safe is probably a big part of that.
Absolutely.
This year, again, that's meant a lot of different things, whether that's making sure people have their masks on and all of those various things. I mean, have there been some, and I know you've only been here 3 weeks,
Okay.
but are there some new challenges in terms of making people feel comfortable and secure and safe while they're riding RTA?
I don't think that there's been any new challenge. I think that our officers have pretty much met the challenge. We're a little short on staff, but what we're short on, we make the difference up in how we treat people. And again, I can only stress the importance of the need to treat people with dignity, with respect. I tell my officers as much as I can, you know, you want to treat people the way that you would want an officer to treat somebody you cared about. And so that's the important mantra that I send out to these officers every day.
Let me check my notes here. So you, while you were with CPD, you worked within domestic violence, you worked with the homicide unit, and support services. Was there a favorite sort of, or a role or thing that you liked amongst those jobs?
There's a couple of favorites that I have. Number one of my favorites, or one of my passions, is domestic violence. When I went to the domestic violence unit, I got my instructor certification. I've been teaching domestic violence, I would say, since 2003, so almost 20 years. Any kind of domestic violence or domestic violence related topic, I teach in the academy. I teach outside of the academy to private organizations. I've taught it on a local level, on a national level. So that will always be one of my passions. One of the other passions that I have is just teaching police officers, period. I enjoy when I engage officers and teach them new techniques, new strategies. One of my jobs as the commander of the Bureau of Support Services was to work with the Department of Justice to create and implement new training for officers. So I was instrumental in it, but I enjoy just getting up in front of classes and teaching, officers how to be the best that they can be.
And are you currently teaching with Notre Dame College as well?
I was teaching with Notre Dame College. I just finished my last semester.
Okay.
So, and I'm enjoying that too. So, a criminal law class. So it's been very good. It's been an eye-opening experience. A little bit different teaching college students versus teaching police officers, but I still enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, that would make sense. There'd be some differences of opinions, or the knowledge base that people come into it with is probably quite different. Too.
I can tell you one job that I absolutely hated with Cleveland Division of Police.
What's that?
I posed as a prostitute when I worked in the Vice unit. And even though I knew that I wasn't a prostitute, just kind of 15, 20 minutes out there, yeah, I just didn't like it. It was kind of gross.
That's a tough assignment.
That's a tough assignment. So
You don't have to do anything like that in your new role as chief.
absolutely not. Nobody better ask me to do anything like that.
What are you looking forward to? Obviously, you've held leadership positions also with CPD, but what are you looking forward to about being the boss lady, being the chief?
I think the biggest thing that I want to do is to lead by example. I always say that, what I believe in is that the behavior at the bottom is indicative of the attitudes at the top. So there's nothing that I would not have my officers do that I wouldn't do myself. That's number one. I also believe in developing my officers, so if there's some trainings, if there's anything that I can give them that helps them be the best that they can be, then that's what I'm going to do. I always say, as a supervisor, from sergeant on up to commander to acting deputy chief to chief now, my job as their supervisor is not to get them to work for me. My job is to work for them so that they have the tools that they need so that they can be the best officers, so that this can be the best police department that it can be.
That servant leadership attitude, that's what you
Yes,
want to do.
absolutely, absolutely.
Now, you've also been, praised throughout your career. You've been a groundbreaker when it comes to the liaison between the LGBT community. How do you plan to bring some of that inclusivity to this department?
Well, one of the things that I would like to do is take a look at the recruitment process, and I'd like to make it, if it is not already, I'd like to make it more inclusive. We'd like to enhance our recruitment strategy so that we get a large, diverse pool of talent to join RTA, and I definitely want to keep that going. There's also some trainings that I'm looking at with regard to LGBT awareness that every officer can take, and I'm going to continue to look at any kind of diversity training, any kind of inclusivity training that's available to our department, and even anything that comes up, because I do have partnerships with other departments, and sometimes they send me information. So anything that comes up from even other departments, I'm going to send it forward. So.
In 2021, maybe it's not as rare as it was when you started in police work to be a woman, to be a member of the LGBT community, to be working, to be a black woman, to be working in policing. What's changed? What hasn't? What needs to?
I think what has changed is the opportunity. I consider myself very fortunate because the city gave me a lot of opportunities. City of Cleveland gave me a lot of opportunities. Chief Williams also gave me a lot of opportunities, and the mayor gave me a lot of opportunity. But that opportunity came from hard work. I believe in recognizing that hard work, and I believe in cultivating whatever that talent is. And somebody saw something in me that I may not have necessarily seen in myself, but because of that leadership that saw something in me, I believe that it's essential that I pay that forward. So that's what I will continue to do.
So in this series where we talk about boss ladies, we like to try to give advice
Okay.
as well, and maybe particularly for girls, but girls who want to go into policing, what do you tell them?
I say do it. There's one saying that I always have, and I pass it on to anybody that I'm teaching or training, and that is to work until your idols become your equals. I'm a firm believer in that. There's nothing you can't do if you set your sights on it. The minute somebody tells you you can't do it is when you set out to show them that you can. So You can be anything. I am proof positive that you can be anything you want to be. I will say this one thing. Years ago, when I became a police officer, I told my mom, I said, I'm going to be a police officer. And she goes, okay. I said, do you think I'll be a good police officer? Now, this was over 30 years ago. I said, do you think I'll be a good police officer? 30 years ago, she said to me, you'll make a great police chief. That was over 30 years ago. And here I am sitting in this chair. So I'm feeling very fortunate.
Did she speak it into existence?
She spoke it into existence. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where do you get that confidence? 'Cause, you know, I love that idea that you make your idols your equals. Keep working until you do that. That's such a great concept. Sometimes you get scary along the way, or
It can be.
you get knocked down, or you don't.
Yeah.
Where do you draw on that confidence?
I get it from my mother. My mother's always said, if you get knocked down, you get up and you keep going. Failure is, it's not so much that failure is not an option, but failure is what keeps you moving to that next level. If you fail at something, you get up and you do it again until you get it right. I get that from my mother. She was always the kind of person that led by example. She taught my sister and I. My sister is also an example that I like to follow because my mother had that determination to make sure that we were always taken care of. And we grew up poor. And I will say, not only did we grow up poor, we grew up, I always tell people we grew up P-O, because we couldn't afford the O and the R. But we never knew that because my mother was always there for us when we needed her. And so that's the example that she set for us, and that's the example that I continue to follow.
Is your mother still with us?
She is. She's 81 years old, and I love her to death. She's here in Cleveland.
What did she say when you called her and said, Mom, I got the job?
She said, are you playing with me? And I said, no, I'm dead serious. I'm playing with you. She said, see, I told you one day you'd be chief. And she was right. So she was right.
That's awesome. You see her a lot?
I see her just about every day.
That's so
She's about 2 minutes away from me, so I see her just about every day.
That's really neat. What an example that she set. Anything else that you would tell, I don't know, young people in our community who want to see Cleveland be a better place? I mean, I think we obviously are aware there are challenges in all sorts of ways, but for someone like you that knows the city so well and just wants to be a step in the right direction,
What I would say is, if you have a dream, don't let anybody take that away from you. If there's something, even if you're not sure what you want to do something. I support anybody who wants to make this city better. And the only way to make that city better, the only way to make that change is to be part of the change. So if you want to see change within our police departments, you want to see change within our city, then come join us. We welcome you here.
I know there's a couple things specifically I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
Changes coming. The first one being, soon your officers are going to be wearing body cameras,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
In August, is that still the
Yes,
timeline?
that's the proposed timeline is August, yes.
How do you feel about that?
I am excited about it. I think that body cams are a great tool. They not only serve as a record to protect our citizens, but to protect our officers. I think that from what I've seen with Cleveland, there's been a decrease in officers being harmed. There's been a decrease in use of force incidents. There's been also a decrease in complaints from the community. So I think that that body cams serve a dual purpose. I think it's about time. So, yeah.
And that'll be all the officers that are out on the street? will
Yes,
have them?
absolutely, yes.
That's great. And you mentioned use of force. Obviously, so many of those incidents, not particular to RTA, but in other departments have been in the national consciousness
Yes.
of late. How will you instruct your officers as chief to deal with those situations?
Well, again, I think it kind of goes back to treating people with dignity and respect. That's number one. And again, I repeat that you want to treat people the way you would want an officer to treat somebody you cared about. That's the most important thing. I know that wearing this badge and wearing this patch is that a lot of times when people are angry, they're not angry at me personally. They're angry at the badge and they're angry at the patch. And one of the things that I tell my officers is you cannot take this personal. You cannot. And that seems to work. I know it worked for me. And I'm hoping that constantly works for our officers. This is not personal. It's the job.
What keeps you up at night? What are you worried about as you start this new chapter?
One of the things that I don't know that I would say that I'm worried about it, but one of the things that I am concerned about is officer wellness. How do our officers manage stress on this department? That's something that I'm looking into now. What are our biggest concerns with regard to officer wellness? I know that the suicide rate for officers is pretty high. It's increased over the last couple of years. And I think that if there are not mechanisms in place here, there need to be mechanisms in place to deal with that particular issue. I understand.
An important one. How about fair enforcement? I know, amongst some of the community concerns in the last year, that has been one because there's been concerns about it being disproportionately used against black riders.
Well, I know that that's something that I do have to look at, and I know that there's a committee out there that is big on, abolishing fair enforcement or maybe looking at it from a different perspective. So I'm open to any kind of conversation with regard to fair enforcement. Absolutely.
Still something you're going to be working on.
Absolutely, yes.
If we're talking 5 years from now, what do you hope you've accomplished?
5 years from now, I would like to see, first of all, more officers on the job. That's number one.
Do you have a lot of open positions when you say that?
We are hiring right now. So we do have some processes in place where we'll be announcing a hiring process. So I'm looking forward to getting that out soon. I would like to see a more diverse group. I'd like to see some more women in positions of authority here. That's something that I think will happen, absolutely. And I want to see a strengthened relationship between RTA and the community that we serve, and even, our operators. So a very strong, positive relationship. So.
Great. What am I not asking you that's important?
Well, you didn't ask me my age, so I'm happy about that. Okay. I think we've covered just about everything, so.
Jess, was there anything you wanted to? I don't think so. It's an awesome interview. I love everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing so much of your personality.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm honored to be here and honored to be a part of RTA.
It's really the start of a new great chapter.
Yes, we will see where it goes. So I'm excited about it. I really am.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's great. Is there anything that you felt you needed to touch on? Nope.
Okay, so we didn't have to do take 137 then?
One take wonder.
Very good. That's it. You guys prepped me for today.